Random House Audio presents The Murder Book by Jonathan Kellerman. Read for you by John Rubinstein. The day I got the murder book, I was still thinking about Paris. Red wine, bare trees, gray river, city of love. Everything that happened there. Now this. Robin and I flew into Charles de Gaulle Airport on a murky Monday in January. The trip had been my idea of a surprise. I'd pulled it together in one manic night, booking tickets on Air France and a room at a small hotel on the outskirts of the 8th arrondissement, packing a suitcase for two, speeding the 125 freeway miles to San Diego, showing up at Robin's room at the Del Coronado just before midnight with a dozen coral roses and a voila grin. She came to the door wearing a white T-shirt and a hip-riding red sarong, auburn curls loose, chocolate eyes tired, no makeup. We embraced. Then she pulled away and looked down at the suitcase. When I showed her the tickets, she turned her back and shielded me from her tears. She'd left L.A. because I'd lied to her and put myself in danger. Listening to her cry now, I wondered if the damage was irreparable. I asked what was wrong, as if I had nothing to do with it. She said, "I'm just surprised." We ordered room service sandwiches. She closed the drapes. We made love. "Paris," she said, slipping into a hotel bathrobe. "I can't believe you did all this." She approached the bed, stood over me, touched me. She let the robe slither from her body, straddled me, shut her eyes, lowered a breast to my mouth. When she came the second time, she rolled away, went silent. I played with her hair, and as she fell asleep, the corners of her mouth lifted. Mona Lisa smile. In a couple of days, we'd be queuing up as robotically as any other tourists, straining for a glimpse of the real thing. She'd fled to San Diego because a high school chum lived there. A thrice-married oral surgeon named Deborah Dyer, whose current love interest was a banker from Mexico City. Francisco had suggested a day of schlock shopping in Tijuana, followed by an indeterminate stay at a leased beach house in Cabo San Lucas. Robin, feeling like a fifth wheel, had begged off and called me, asking if I'd join her. She'd been nervous about it, apologizing for abandoning me. I didn't see it that way at all. Figured her for the injured party. I'd gotten myself in a bad situation because of poor planning. Blood had spilled and someone had died. Rationalizing the whole thing wasn't that tough. Innocent lives had been at stake. The good guys had won. I'd ended up on my feet. But as Robin roared away in her truck, I faced the truth. My misadventures had little to do with noble intentions, lots to do with a personality flaw. A long time ago, I'd chosen clinical psychology, the most sedentary of professions, telling myself that healing emotional wounds was how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. But it had been years since I'd conducted any long-term therapy. Not because, as I'd once let myself believe, I'd burned out on human misery. I had no problem with misery. My other life force-fed me gobs of misery. The truth was cold. Once upon a time, I had been drawn to the humanity and the challenge of the talking cure. But sitting in the office, dividing hour after hour by 3/4, ingesting other people's problems, had come to bore me. Novelty had always been my drug. The kick-start of adrenaline punching my chest made me feel alive. When life slowed down for too long, I grew hollow. But for circumstance, I might have dealt with it by jumping out of airplanes or scaling bare rocks. Or worse. Years ago, I'd met a homicide detective, and that changed everything. Robin had put up with it for a long time. Now she'd had enough, and sooner rather than later, I'd have to make some kind of decision. She loved me, I know she did. Maybe that's why she made it easy for me. In Paris, clichés are just fine. You leave your hotel, step out into the winter drizzle, walk aimlessly until you find yourself at a café near the Jardin des Tuileries, where you order overpriced baguettes and grainy French press coffee, then move on to the Louvre, where even during the off-season the lines prove daunting. So you cross the Seine on the Pont Royal, ignoring the motor din that washes the bridge, study the murk of the water below, try the Musée d'Orsay, and murder your feet for a couple of hours, sucking in the fruits of genius. Then deeper into the grubby side streets of the left bank, where you press yourself into the all-in-black throng and laugh inwardly at an imagined wheezy accordion soundtrack overpowering the burping motor scooters and the whining Renaults. It was early afternoon, near a shop in Saint-Germain, when it happened. Robin and I had stopped into a dark, narrow men's haberdashery. The rain had been coming in fitful bursts all day. The umbrella we'd cadged from the hotel concierge wasn't generous enough to shelter both of us, and we each ended up more than half wet. Robin had been quiet since we'd boarded the plane in L.A., sleeping for most of the flight, refusing dinner. This morning we'd woken up late and barely talked. During the walk across the river, she seemed distracted. I put it down to jet lag. The Saint-Germain stroll led us past a private school where beautiful, chittering adolescents spilled out onto the sidewalk, then a bookstore where I'd intended to browse until Robin pulled me into the clothing store, saying, "These are good silks, Alex. You could use something new." The store peddled menswear, but smelled like a nail salon. Robin took a while thumbing through the goods, finally found me a very blue shirt and an extravagant red and gold tie of heavy weave, got my nod, asked the clerk to wrap it up. As we returned to the street, I asked, "Hungry?" "No, not yet." "You didn't touch breakfast?" Shrug. The rain was harder, colder. I tried to draw Robin under the umbrella, but she resisted, pointed to a brasserie 2 doors up the street, and ran in ahead of me. "Bonnie Raitt," I repeated. We were at a tiny table tucked in a corner of the clammy brasserie. "Bonnie," she said. "Jackson Browne, Bruce Hornsby, Sean Colvin, maybe others." 3-month tour. "At least 3 months," she said, still avoiding my eyes. "If it goes international, it could stretch longer." "World hunger," I said. "Good cause." "Famine and child welfare," she said. "Nothing nobler." She turned to me. Her eyes were dry and defiant. "So," I said, "you're an equipment manager now. No more guitar making?" "There'll be luthier involved. I'll be overseeing and repairing all the gear." "When exactly did you get the offer?" I said. 2 weeks ago." "I see. I know I should have said something. It dropped in my lap." "Is the tour dog-friendly, or do I keep Spike?" "I'd like to take him along." "I'm sure that'll thrill him to no end. When do you leave?" "In a week." "A week." My eyes hurt. "Lots of packing ahead." She lifted her fork and pronged dead lettuce leaves. "I can call it off. If you're going to hate me, it can be undone." "No," I said, "I don't hate you, and you don't want it undone." The restaurant was filling, drenched Parisians seeking shelter from the downpour. 2 weeks ago, I said, I was running around with Milo on Lauren Teague's murder, hiding what I was doing from you. I was stupid to think this trip would make a difference. She pushed salad around, then said, "I've felt so alone, for a while. You were gone all the time, putting yourself in situations. I didn't bring up the tour because I knew you shouldn't be distracted." She rolled the side of a small fist along the table rim. "I guess I've always felt that what you do is important and that what I do is just craft." I started to speak, but she shook her head. "But this last time, Alex, meeting with that woman, seducing her, planning a damn date in order to... Your intentions were good, but it still came down to seduction, using yourself as a..." "Whore," I said, thinking suddenly about Lauren Teague. A girl I'd known a long time ago from my quiet job. She'd sold her body, ended up headshot and dumped in an alley. I was going to say lure. Despite all we've had together, this supposed enlightened relationship we've got, you go about your own business. Alex, basically you've built this whole other life from which I'm excluded, from which I want to be excluded. She reached for her wine glass, sipped, made a face. "Bad vintage?" "Fine vintage. I'm sorry."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?